I come inside to look at how the world works from a different perspective. The way that I move through the day suggests that I often feel the world works from the outside in, that things happen out there in the physical realm to me, and I do my best to respond. But let me sit quietly now to take a second look. How do things really work? Is it from the outside in? If I am honest, I can see that I can be in one situation one day and respond in a certain way, and then be in the exact same situation another day and feel and respond very differently. Perhaps things actually work from the inside out. That my inner world of those invisible elements, thoughts, feelings, attitude, perspective, perception, memory, and most importantly, awareness. Those invisible, non-physical elements completely shape how I move through the world, how I interact with the physical, how I respond, how I experience. What kind of so-called reality I can create on any given day. Sitting here now, I move into that very peaceful place I know I have inside. Beyond time, beyond action, beyond everything worldly. Just calm. Completely fine with whatever is going on around me. And at that moment, when I'm stable in that quiet place inside, that peaceful state, I feel I can create something quite beautiful in the outer world. This power from the inside out, from the non-physical into the physical, can create something very beautiful, uplifting, and elevated, whatever the situation may be. Operating from this very peaceful place inside. Om Shanti.
Good evening and welcome to Interview with the Raj Yogi. For those on Instagram, we're trying something new in terms of the view. It seems to fit us better. So let us know how that is. So tonight's session is about down to earth change. Both Judy and I have actually returned from India, from the headquarters in Madhuban, about in the last couple of weeks. And even from your sharing, actually, something that you were talking about in terms of character change. And today in morning class, I was really thinking a lot about down to earth change. And so I know you had asked, what is that going to look like in terms of what we're going to talk about today? Maybe I'll just ask some, just what touched you so much when you were mentioning about change that comes at the level of character. Because a lot of souls hear about spirituality, and sometimes our ideas about spirituality is it's this or that. That I have no time for spirituality, or how does that look like in real life? Or I go to a retreat, I come back to the real world. And so from what you were sharing, it seems like it's really something that has touched you in terms of change that actually happens, at the basis of just your day-to-day life.
Yes, it's definitely become it's always been a big focus. I mean, that's the objective of Raj Yoga, is transformation or restoration of our original character. But I was really feeling today, especially in a conversation, that it's almost like there's two groups. And one group feels and pursues the spiritual endeavor with the perspective or attitude that it can only happen in isolation. And it's not good or bad, it's just the feeling, the attitude towards spirituality, that it really happens in isolation. Sometimes we even use the word purity interchanged with spirituality. So what this would look like is, how would the world continue? Or this is our basic nature, whatever the case, but that these are isolated things. So there's spirituality, and then my day-to-day life, which we sometimes call reality. And then there's a second group, and it's not so much about isolation, but their feeling is that spirituality is about integration. So the whole point of it is to live spiritually, that there isn't my spiritual life and then my reality or day-to-day life, but that I want my day-to-day life to become spiritual. And I think it's possible, and I think it's essential. Again, it's not that one, it's just two different approaches, isolation or integration. And I say that because I've observed the same thing in fitness. Today I was thinking, and I never really thought of this before, but I go into a fitness facility, and there's always the studio, and then there's the weight floor outside. And on the weight floor, we've got people lifting really heavy weights and grunting and all of this business. And they kind of don't even give any thought to the stability and mobility and body work going on in the studio. They think that it has nothing to do with what they're doing outside, that these are completely isolated endeavors. Whereas for myself, I don't think I can do one without the other, that they actually are absolutely both essential. They're integrated. So it's just a different way of seeing things. But I'm very, very attracted to the model of integration myself. And I think it's something each person has to explore for themselves, because it's quite critical in terms of the route to happiness.
When you were sharing, I was thinking about the cornerstone aspect in this study is that it's not that you have a soul, but you are a soul. And just when you're sharing that aspect felt like it was very much, a part of what it means to integrate. What are your feelings then? Perhaps maybe just your experimentations, or just experiencing that I am a soul. But how does this concept of my soul feel like it just keeps things separate, so you're not really actually changing from the core?
I think the best one can do is experiment themselves. That I might stay in this, what I think is a safer model, that there's me and there's my soul, and that's not going to rock the boat, even though deep down I probably want the boat to be rocked. I want things to change, but it's a little maybe frightening or unfamiliar. So I kind of keep it in that safe zone, and I can only go so far with that zone because it's the one I've been in all along. So I'm just pushing the edges of where I've been. But if I can experiment, which is going to require a high level of detachment, but if I can experiment that I am the soul and see how it affects my functioning, if it actually enhances my functioning, so that the fear starts to go down. I think that that's what I've really, when I first started studying this idea of I am a soul, which means, of course, a complete reframing of what is mine. And I think of so much of the time, and continues to be, just reassuring the self, and it's okay, and it's okay, you can let go. And it's very interesting, I hear so much that when souls, not that I'm saying this is what's going to happen, you're not going to die or anything, but when souls are in a situation, terminal illness or whatever the case, and their family or whatever is with them, that so much of the conversation turns in, it's okay to let go. It's okay to let go, because they can see that holding on is creating so much pain. And if I have the understanding that I, the soul, am eternal and it's not the end of the journey, such a vast improvement, that encouraging. I remember there was one soul I was thinking about today. Whenever I ask them, how are you? They say, I'm alive. I remember towards the end of their time in the body, most of what I was whispering to them was, you're always alive. You're always alive. That's the beauty of being a soul. You're always alive. Even when you leave the body, you're still there. You're still alive. So it's living that way, experimenting with it, and see what happens, and if it can overcome the fear.
What really inspired me about this topic was because of awareness that needs to happen in day-to-day life. And sometimes souls mention about being in meditation and their eyes are closed, their eyes might be rolled back, they're not even awake, totally checked out. And I don't know if maybe that leaves such an impression on themselves or even others, that spirituality doesn't look very appealing because you look like you're sort of not even present. So how could there be change in terms of awareness? So that really came to mind in terms of down to earth change.
Yeah. Again, it's very similar to, I guess, the fitness experience, that when I realize that spirituality isn't some esoteric, otherworldly, mystical endeavor, but it's actually moving into reality, I actually become more real or authentic, from the image to the real self. If I can just experience that. And it's certainly what I appreciated from what was a major inspiration in our time in India, was being able to reflect on the example of the original students. We were kind of always in their legacy in some ways. And I always used to enjoy, back in the day when we were in their company, how natural they made spirituality look. It was just so, it really appealed to me. Very elevated characters, very pure hearts, but just so normal. like, so powerful, elevated, but very natural, very integrated, very relevant. And I think it's, even if I can't seem to experience that yet for myself, it's very lovely to have those examples in front of us.
So we were experimenting with shortening the interview in case that souls have very short attention spans. So we'd like to hear your feedback anyways. But maybe one last question before we go into reflection. What do you feel in your experience in terms of having to change my awareness at a day-to-day level for that change to be possible?
We always say, no, top of the list, it has to be my time. I have to be ready. I have to be very disinterested in operating the same way. That's really high on the list. So that disinterest almost becomes a loyal companion. In other words, I'm very interested in what it feels like to be in that incorporeal or spiritual state while I go through the day. I have to be very keenly interested, or it's my time. Attention as well. And I think often day-to-day life will help us with the attention piece, because if we start to get a little slack in it all, something's going to happen to snap us back. Either something that we find we're affected by, or we react to, and we go, pain. It's like, I don't want to operate from there anymore. So that's going to be very helpful if I can start to see those moments as opportunities or moments of care to bring me back into attention. But yes, it's just a lot of experimentation. I guess that's the point of all of this, is that we're ultimately, for this to really work as a transformation, we're ultimately, just in this classroom, I can listen to lectures, but eventually I have to take it out into the field, that we're talking about going from theory to practice. It really won't go very far. I'll enjoy it for the moments I listen to it, but then it will stop. For it to become an enjoyable way of life, I have to practice. I have to experiment. I have to take it out into the field. And I have to be very interested to do that.
Thank you, Judy. All right, we'll have a reflection here. No, we haven't made full changes yet. I'm putting it back to you.
Okay. There is a term that we like to use. It always inspires and gives hope. This idea of our highest potential, our full potential. And perhaps we even have some sense of what that might be. Although the odds are very high, that each of us perhaps does not fully appreciate our potential. How can I realize my full potential? What's the method to go into that unlimited state? I will probably have to go beyond all that is limited, temporal, conditional. That is all that is physical. Moving into spirituality. And that begins by moving inside. A sacred place inside. It's always there, even as everything else changes. A quiet place, a place beyond time, a deep ancient memory. A beautiful place inside every human spirit. I turn my attention there. That is the gateway to my highest potential, my timeless state, a state that is beyond all experiences, all those limitations, all the fears and attachments and desires and regrets, beyond it all. A very pure part of the self that's protected by sweet silence. My journey begins by patiently accessing that part of me. Might take a little time, but it's such a worthwhile use of my time. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. We will probably be experiencing some adjustments with the interviews. Not sure what that will look like, but just a reminder of some upcoming sessions. We have the English workshop at the Inner Peace Center on the first Saturday of the month. It's 1 o'clock to 4:30. And that is on the website for registration. I don't believe it is online, so if you'd like to join on site, please register. There is also the Raja Yoga Foundations in Hindi, I believe. That's on the Wednesdays, first 4 Wednesdays of the month. So registration is also required for that, and many, many drop-in sessions. Most of them online, but there are definitely sessions at the Academy as well as the Inner Peace Center. So please visit the website for all of those details. Thank you for joining with us. Om Shanti.